motivated her.
Well, now Alexander Tretyakov, the start and track record holder here, also broke the track record this morning, or this afternoon as it is now, to go for the lead of the race. But 2 sleds behind him came Martin Stukurz, and he knocked that record just out of the ring.
Used to seeing him in his Superman style, and Tretyakov's not that far behind him, so excited to see a good race here today.
Absolutely. Well, like in the women's race, there's Donna Crichton, who didn't make the cut, unfortunately, with a start mishap. Her teammate, Dave Swift, he had a start mishap. He didn't make the top 20 either. But as in the women's race, we've got 2 at the front that have just destroyed the track record and a massive scrap behind for the remaining positions. We've got a couple of ties in the top 20. Your teammate Eric Nielsen tied 9th with Sergei Chudanov of Russia. Just behind them, few hundreds behind, John Daly and Carl Tress, the Americans, identical in times down this track. And that's tough to try and find a way to determine who's going to win that battle. There is John. But Martin Stukurz looking as though he may well be on his way to World Cup win number 20 of his career here. See the athletes here making their final adjustments a few minutes ago. Using the bar there to change the rock of the runners. And the micrometer, they measure down to 1/10 of a millimeter to make sure that the sled is balanced and exactly as you want it. And on this very quick, very cold track, that may be really quite critical. Our second run start list, top 20 from the first heat go in reverse order as ever. They go 20 down to 1, last to fast. 29 sliders started, 20 go into the second heat, and only 1 will come out on top. Martin Stukurz will be last to go. He defends a decent but not unassailable lead over Alexander Tretyakov of Russia. So time to get the race underway then. Heat 2, World Cup number 4 for men's skeleton. Duff Gibson, the Canadian coach, holds the sled for Johnny Fairbairn. Olympic champion John Montgomery, one of those who did not make the cut in the first heat. A horrific start disaster. Just might as well have parked it on corner 1 and gone shopping for all the good it did him sliding down the track.
Let's see if John can improve on his 5:13 first heat start time. He's quicker than that. It was a 17th ranked start, but to see if his nervous system's a bit more stimmed now.
Gets a good run down into corner 0. 5:14 getaway, just a fraction slower. It is very cold, air temperature -5 with a biting wind behind it. And the track temperature -4 point something as well, so it's very fast ice today.
Yeah, so with the humidity in the air, that ice could be acting a little bit colder than what it's reading. So it will be interesting as we get into the higher speed part of this Winterberg track.
Well, like in the women's race, the track workers have spritzed the track between the runs. That's spraying a fine mist of water on it. Of course, that freezes instantly. It helps to polish the surface. Little error there from Johnny.
Yeah, he made that same mistake heat 1, hit on the entrance of corner 9, and it's hard to recover, even though this is the quickest part here. You're not going to see that till this other split, and he doesn't have the weight that Eric Nielsen from Canada would have to help him get up that uphill section.
126 kilometers now at the bottom, 78 miles an hour head first down the ice. And he comes home with a 57.65, so that is quicker than his first heat. He tidied things up and ironed out a couple of errors. Corner 9-1 still haunting him. Well, I wonder whether the track is going to be faster in this second heat as the temperature's starting to drop again.
I guess we'll have to wait for a couple sliders just to see, because that was a big mistake for John's. The way he was sliding all week, he wasn't making that mistake. So to see somebody who can put a really good, consistent run together.
Johnny Fairbairn there on the right-hand side.
Saying hi to his fiancée, Randy, back at home. She's actually in Whistler for the America's Cup right now, and they'll be getting married this summer.
Next up, Lucas Kummer of Switzerland. Just 200s behind his teammate Mikael Herfer. They were 18th and 19th in Heat 1. Great leg turnover, but So many errors crept into his run.
5:02, 200s faster than the first heat. And he's leaning a little bit off that wall going into corner 1. He was ecstatic that he was able to get into this top 20 for the second heat. So let's see if he can relax a little bit and maybe even come up a few spots. Everyone's just separated by hundredths of a second here.
Yeah, start draw 28 is always tough. You're not in the race before you even start, so you have to knock a few out of the way. 1500s up, he was 2/10 up at the first split. Late there as he flops off the wall. Of course, if you're dropping down off the wall, you're not going forward as smoothly as you might. 600s in the lead. What's the speed like? Johnny Fairbairn was 126.0 at the bottom. Lucas Kummer's behind. 125.0. He's staying behind. Well, he had an epic start, 5:02. Very quick indeed. Couldn't match the run. Fairbairn moves up 1. Well, Melissa, in the women's race, did it get quicker in the second heat with the track being polished by the runners and being spritzed?
It was pretty even. I was the exact same. Shelley was back about 2/10, but Noelle had moved up in time, but she had that mishap on her first run. So I would say that this ice is pretty consistent right now.
Well, he came down 57.66 in the first heat, 57.84 in the second. More errors are going to account for that. Again, a little late here. And it's all about rhythm in those corners, taking the pressure at the right place, dropping as far as you need to, but no further. Johnny Fairbairn of Canada leads. 18 sleds remaining in this 4th Men's Skeleton World Cup of the Wiesmann World Cup season. This is Michael Hoefer of Switzerland.
Remember, he popped out of the groove because he loaded right on the crest the first heat and jumped into that second groove, but he stayed in the groove this time.
5:20. Well, his first heat was 5:23. He just basically skidded sideways and got caught by the second groove. That was a safety belt that I've never seen before.
He's low on his sled. You want to make sure those shoulders are down on the sled. You don't want to see his head up off the sled and moving around. He's staying very quiet.
Like his teammate Lucas Kummer, only been sliding for 4 years. This is season number 5 on the ice for both of these young Swiss athletes. 1300s up. Now he's starting to motor away from Johnny Fairbairn.
And this is where the track picks up when they're approaching speeds of 130 kilometers an hour.
This is looking like a better runner. 126.7, 78.8 miles an hour. And Johnny Fairbairn in second place as Michael Hoefer moves into the lead. And that was actually faster than his first heat by nearly 1/10 of a second. And again, you know, it's consistency that's, you know, that is the ultimate goal here, is to put in 2 really solid runs. He looks very happy with that.
Really smooth in this lower labyrinth. You can see he stayed off the wall going into corner 14. This is a big uphill corner. His head is down on the ice and there's big bumps you can see. You have to absorb that.
Imagine driving up a switchback mountain road. You've got to get off the hairpin turn if there's a big steep climb in front of you. If you don't, then you run out of speed halfway up. And you've got no lower gears to go down within the skeleton. Next up, Raphael Meyer of Austria, one of the youngest sliders on tour. Now 20 years old, turned 20 in August. And his father coaches the Austrian bobsled team. His younger brother, Benny, is also a skeleton slider. Like so many at the Eagles track, started young. He was 10 years old when he started in skeleton.
5:24, not a strong start, but he's young. He's got sliding in the genes.
And again, you know, you think what a teenager's body does over the years, how it develops and matures between, say, 15 and 25. You know, there's a world of difference between him at 19, 20 to what there will be at 23, 24. Another 3 summers of intense physical training. And then you add in the experience of extra ice time as well.
Oh, Same thing as John Fairburn, where he just bumps off that right wall going into corner 9. He only had 400s on Michael, so you can see that he's dropping some more time here. It's going to be really close.
Well, he has good speed. Mikael Herfer 126.7. He was 126.6. Not quite enough to hang on. Coach Martin Rettel, a little disappointed with that. Again, 500ths of a second. That's a turnaround of about a tenth. He was 400ths up, comes in 500ths behind. And a tenth of a second, Melissa, that can go with just one miscalculated steer.
That's the thing with skeleton, a tenth of a second isn't that much time. It is attainable to move up. He just bumps off the wall here going into corner 9. You can see that. Pushes him away. There's some big grooves cut off into that wall too that he could really bleed his speed.
So there is Raffelmeier, and in the leader's box still is Mikael Herfer. Maurizio Ioli of Italy. Next up, the soldier from Domodossola in the Dolomites, 31 years old. There's your race leader, Mikael Herfer of Switzerland. The gaps here are really quite tiny between these athletes, just 600ths of a second quicker in the first heat. Ioli, and that may have gone just with that little wriggle down into the first corner.
Oh, he handled that really well. I was going to say the grooves seemed to be putting everybody into corner 0 perfectly fine, but we hadn't seen anybody use the right groove yet, and it's actually pulling to the right now. They were having problems. John Montgomery, who didn't get a second run, pulled to the left and hit the wall. So that is a critical part of this Winterberg track.
They may well have adjusted it after the first heat, and it's now popping you out to the right rather than the left. So it's Hobson's choice. Tenth of a second up at the start. He's 1500ths and going deeper into the red. Like in your bank account, red is not good here in your timing account. It means you're behind the race leader. Don't forget, he started off with a time advantage, so he's losing more than is being shown on the screen. 67, 8, 9 slide. That's 0.3 of a second worse than his first heat. And again, you know, Melissa, with your experience, the years that you've been sliding, you know if you're up against some really quick 20-year-old kid, you've got the experience to be able to put together consistency to keep you in front.
Yeah, and you know, when he comes out of this groove, it happens so quickly. Immediately, it just drifts off to the right, puts him late in corner 0. He's just fighting, putting pressure in the sled on flat portions, and it's not the fast way down the track, and he knows that.
It was an uphill struggle in a downhill race, and that's not the way you want to go. Next up for USA is Matt Antoine from Prairie-du-Chien, Wisconsin. Well, like a number of his fellow teammates now, watched the Salt Lake Games in 2002, and instead of saying, wow, those guys are insane, went, wow, those guys are insane, where do I sign up? Never look back. Okay, little uncomfortable into corner 0.
Yes, it is a very uncomfortable corner. You're always just wondering, okay, did I get it? Did I get it? And then as soon as you come out of that corner and you're clean, it's just a huge sigh of relief.
And the shoulders slump back down onto the sled, and your aerodynamic form is better as well.
Oh, and there was some height there going into corner 5 off 4. So again, if the ice is changing slightly, that might make his runners a little bit more twitchy. They're going to be more sensitive, and so the lines he's taking might not be the same as what he was practicing.
And of course, unlike racing a car, you don't get a lot of laps to try and really find out where all the grip is. You just have one option of getting the corner right. Lead is down to just 4/100ths of a second, 126.0. This is going to be perilously close. Mikael Herfer still has the lead. Herfer is enjoying his time in the leader's box, 1/100th of a second behind Matt Antoine. And again, just to reiterate, there was only 800ths between them in the first heat. Again, we're talking less than a tenth of a second difference.
And this is where the mistake happened. Corner 4, too much height, misses steer. At the end of the corner, he comes out, bumps the wall right there. You can see, well, there was some ice that chipped off, but When it's a flat, slow track, you can't make mistakes like that.
And that is some of the flattest ice you will find in ice racing anywhere before you get to corner 6 at Winterberg. Next up is Hiro Takahashi, 14th place after the first heat, as you can see from his start bib number, lying 18th in the World Cup rankings. Katsuhiro Koshi, long-time Japanese slider, now coaching his 2 young charges. And both he and Shinsuke Tama, his teammate, made a big step forward in all departments last season, and maybe having Koshi coaching them on a regular basis was all part of that development. They got new sled technology as well there, venturing outside Japan for the first time. It was 5.11, that's a good getaway, Melissa.
Yeah, and calm and quiet going into corner 0. That sort of sets up the whole feel for this run down Winterberg.
Wow, 2600s up now. He had a 2/10 advantage over Mikael Herfer as he loaded. That's from the first heat and a quicker push.
You can see he's very relaxed because his body is actually bouncing. These athletes are rock hard. They're sprinters. They spend hours in the gym, but you have to be able to absorb all of these bumps down the track.
95.6 kilometers now, 59.5 miles an hour, and accelerating hard now up to over 70 miles an hour. Oh, a little wild, just 500ths of a second in it. He was a quarter second up. He's not got the speed. He goes down. 57.76 slide. Now, Mikael Herfer, 18th after the first heat, leads with only 13 sleds to go. So he's picked up 4 spots already.
Helps when you pick one groove and you stay in it.
Wow, you know what? You know, then you start to go, okay, well, where was that run on the first heat? Very late there, perilously close to the woodwork in corner 9.
There would have been a lot of polishing if we would have seen him go up onto that wood.
Getting down in the labyrinth, these 3 corners come at you, Melissa, I imagine, very quickly indeed.
To do too much cross in there, and 14 just picks him up. You can see those harsh lines cutting in the ice.
Gosh, he doesn't know whether to laugh or cry in the end. His man lies in 4th place. There is your race leader, Mikael Herfer. Martin Haven and Canada's Melissa Hollingsworth calling the action here from Winterberg as Kyle Tress takes to the ice. 31-year-old software developer from Lake Placid, New York. Kyle tied for 12th with teammate John Daly. Chances are they're not still going to be tied in a couple of minutes' time.
He was 300 slower than his first start time, a 5:08. He was a 5:11 here. He's only had now maybe 9 runs on this Willie Schneider sled here in Winterberg, and that's total. He brought this sled over. This is the first time he's sliding on it, and he's doing fairly well, I would have to say.
It's a good long platform for an athlete of his height, so 1900s up, 1200ths of a second. The gap is coming down over Mikael Herfer. Don't forget, John Daly will have the same starting advantage over Herfer that Kyle Tress has got, but Kyle is not stitching together as good a run as first time down. Speed's not there, just holds on to the lead. 57.62, Mikael Herfer says goodbye from the leader's box, but his run, 57.55, still comfortably the quickest we've seen. Well, Antoine, Kyle Tress rather just kept the speed alive long enough, didn't he?
Such an interesting starting style. 2 feet on the block, 2 feet on the sled, moving over, switching to one hand. It's potential for a lot of disasters, but he's been able to keep it very consistent.
Yeah, well, most athletes only take their hand off the sled once. He takes his hand off the sled twice. Helmet, bib, spikes. Yeah. Aid memoir for John Daly, and the bib reference, particularly apposite, was that La Plana last year. He started without his numbered vest, which was instant disqualification. Of course, you get dressed, you got your big warm coat on. It was the season opener, wasn't it, at Eagles? Yeah. 5:04 start, another big getaway for Daly.
Ties his first heat start. You can really hear a difference between sleds right now. You can actually hear when they come through, whether they're loud and rattly or if it almost sounds like they're whistling down the track.
Some definitely make a very different sound. Obviously, the way the sled is structured, maybe the way the weight is placed inside it if you need to ballast it, as John Daly probably does, and some of the others won't.
Really smooth run to this point. A little close to that entry 9, but it's not hurting him at all with almost a quarter of a second lead.
Well, don't forget, he and Kyle Tress, the current leader, were exactly tied to the 100th of a second in the first heat. And he's still over 2/10 clear. 1:26.8, better speed than Tress as well. Yeah, 57.38 slide. That's a 10th better than he managed in the first heat. Coach Tuffy Latour is happy with that. Whoa, and straight through the station. Decides to bail out of trying to stop. Zach Lund runs laughing up the track behind him. Big smile from John Daly.
Great form going through Kreisel. You want to make sure that those elbows are tucked in, barely any movement in this track. He has just a slight little clunk off, but as long as he's going straight, not skidding the sled, that sets him up perfectly for corner 8.
One of the things that you notice on this track is not many of these corners throw you into a skid, that somewhere like Park City seems to do a lot.
That's why you can be so confused when you come down this track. You're like, oh, it's the cleanest run I ever had.
Yeah.
That's an interesting stopping style.
Hey, it's me, hey, Mom.
John Daly from Long Island,
That's a nice move on you.
now our race leader. Head first, Ed Smith of Great Britain. One of 2 British athletes left in the top 20. Let's see what he can produce here. Rookie on the circuit this year. Actually, interestingly, the British Skeleton Federation brought out a number of athletes to the World Championships in Lake Placid last season, not competing, but just to be there and soak up the big atmosphere of the big event. And I think that was a really good move to give them some kind of feel for what's going on. Big start from him as well, 5.06.
Yeah, that ties his first heat, so consistent. Seems like he's relaxed and calm on his sled, but Daly did go faster his second run than he did the first run, so that's going to put a little bit of pressure on the rest of the field.
Only 0.06 of a second in front. Full 6 foot tall, Ed. So the exact opposite of John Daly. He looks always a lot stockier. Ed looks like he's longer and leaner.
Ooh, it's going to come close.
Very close, 1:26.0. This could come down to a dead heat. Oh, 100th behind. Oh, that's disappointing there for Andy Schmidt, the coach of the GB Skeleton team, and for Ed Smith. Just slips 100th of a second behind. Well, he was in a very tight battle with Kyle Tress and John Daly. Couldn't find the speed to hang on.
You can see through corner 14, his head was just bobbing.
He's not up at the top of the speed charts anywhere down the track. He was just losing speed all the way. 10 of our 20 sleds have completed the course. John Daly leads by 100th of a second from Ed Smith. Kyle Tress lies in third. Join Melissa Hollingsworth and myself right after this for the final 10 sleds.
Ed Smith aus dem Team Großbritannien. Dann die dritte Position aktuell für Kyle Tress aus den USA. Der vierte momentan ist Michael Höfer aus der Schweiz, der ist also auf jeden Fall von 18 auf 14 verbessert. Fünfter Matthew Antoine aus den USA und dann folgen nacheinander die Athleten Meyer aus Österreich, Takahashi aus Japan, Fairbairn aus Kanada, Oyoli aus Italien und Kummer aus der Schweiz auf den Rängen 6 bis 10. Und nun warten wir auf die besten 10, die demnächst das Rennen fortsetzen werden. Der erste dieser stärksten 10 aus dem ersten Lauf, er kommt aus Russland, das ist Sergei Kudinov und der bereitet sich jetzt auf unser 11. Teilnehmer in diesem zweiten Wettkampf. Sergei Kudinov aus Russland, bitte vorbereiten zum Start. Please prepare to start. Kudinov, Russian. Eine Minute noch bis zum Start, 1 minute.
A lot of noise at the top of this Winterberg track for Sergei Chudanov of Russia. His teammates banging on the hoardings to get him fired up. 10th after the first heat. Martin Haven calling the action here in Winterberg alongside me. Canada's slider, Melissa Hollingsworth and Mel just about survives corner one off a huge 5:01 start.
Yeah, he's definitely having some issues getting through corner 0 there. You saw his banana-like style putting a lot of pressure in the sled, moving his feet back and forth. At least he didn't hit a wall, didn't skid out.
Well, 34 hundredths of a second up at the start over John Daly of the USA, our current race leader. That gap is coming down. Daly had a really strong second heat.
Chudy's climbing his way back up into the ranks because he missed the first World Cup in Lake Placid. So every little bit will help for his placing at World Championships in St. Moritz.
Yeah, Chudanov with plenty of experience, but just this season doesn't quite seem to have hit form yet, and that was a little wild as well across the finish line. 57.34 is the fastest second heat we've seen. So Sergei Chudanov takes the lead of the race away from John Daly of the USA, with Ed Smith of Great Britain in third. 9 sleds to go. Some very tight battles. Good start, isn't it?
Oh, it looks fantastic. There's been years where he's been up and down, but the last couple of races have been great. But that groove pulls him to his right, and that's a panic point for an athlete.
I'm sure there's an awful lot of UK summer athletes who could tell you just what a focus a home winter games is, and I bet Chudanov has got that focus right now too. Sochi 2014. Yeah, 2014 is such a long time ago. So it's a long time away, rather. What is it, 14 months now? Yeah.
Blink of an eye, it's going to be here.
Next up, Erik Nielsen of Canada. First off the top of the hill today. Started 5:08, came down 9th fastest.
Go! Go, go,
was
go, go!
tied to the 100th with our current leader, Sergei Chudanov. Who's going to win this arm wrestle?
5 flats, that's 500ths faster than his first heat, and he handled corner 0 perfectly. He was calm on his sled, barely any movement, so any work, didn't bleed any speed. Look at this uphill portion of the track. Any extra work is just going to slow you down, so he has to make a move in the corner, let the sled go.
Well, he outstarted Chudanov and has now added 0.2 of a second to the advantage. This is a good run from Erik Nielsen.
Oh, it's so smooth, and he has the advantage with being a heavier athlete, too, as we get into this higher speed portion in the lower labyrinth of the Winterberg track.
60.3 miles an hour exiting the Kreisel. Going to look at 127.3 at the bottom, 79.1 miles an hour. Big speed for Faceman, and he takes a comfortable lead. Yes, indeed. 56.98 slide. Don't dismount yet, it hasn't stopped. 56.98 would have left him 6th after the first heat, not 9th. That's how much of a difference that makes.
That was a great second run. Consistency for Erik. He's going to be so happy. This lower labyrinth here, he hangs on, doesn't get on to 14 too early. Right now, he's just trying to be literally a sack of potatoes as he goes in this uphill portion with the highest speed out of the field so far.
Good run from Erik Nielsen. And the first person in his second heat to get up to 127 kilometers an hour. We will see more of them. The remaining fast athletes are yet to come. He leads with 8 to go. Could he end up in the medals in the top 6? In the black hat there, you see Marion Tace of Germany. Ben Sanford of New Zealand next up on the ice. Again, good run for him. 8th position. Just a 10th or so ahead of our current leader from the first heat.
It was a fantastic run. He had a 29th ranked start in the first heat. I bet you can improve on that with only 20 sliders.
Yeah, you reckon? Well, his race starts when he gets over the brow and gets in control of his destiny. Gets as much momentum as he can into it. And, you know, you talked about body weight with Nielsen. Same with him, of course. He's a big, tall guy, 6'6", 200 pounds. It's a lot of weight to get onto the sled.
A lot of weight, and he's aerodynamic, too, because he's got, you know, a little thinner of a chest than what Eric would have, but...
The time is ebbing away, 1800s behind at the start, and Nielsen's second run is really looking strong now. He's closed the gap. He was out to 3800s behind, 2400s. You see now why he is desperate to get to over a mile of ice at St. Moritz for the World Champs. 1300s at 128 kilometers an hour. He might just have a 10th in the pocket. He almost had a 10th in the pocket, but not enough to get to him. Eric Nielsen hangs on in front, but with 128 Ks, that was big speed at the bottom. And that may be the fastest. No, we saw 129 from Frank Rommel in the first heat. So big speed at the bottom. Longer the track, long Ben Sanford likes it.
And we know Ben is battling a back injury. He was almost paralyzed in Park City. He could not move when our physio tended to him. And so, you know, right now he's just looking forward to St. Moritz. He's got that time to rehab it, maybe improve on that speed at the top, looking forward to a really long track. Highest speeds here in Winterberg on this short track. What is he going to do in St. Moritz?
Yeah, there'll be another 500-600 meters of ice for him to just accelerate.
That was a quick time, wasn't it? 56, your time.
Yeah, it was indeed. 56.98. Eric Nielsen leads the race. 7 to go, and between here and third place, a fraction over a 10th of a second. Frank Rommel hasn't finished third here. He nearly did a couple of seasons ago. Here's a World Cup rookie season. He got DQ'd from third place on the podium, dragged out of the final ceremony. He got DQ'd as well for weight issues earlier on this season, so he's got to avoid any of that. 5:12 getaway, another big start from Frank.
200ths of an improvement, and he needs every 100th possible at the top of the track, because that's obviously not his strong point. He's considered the grandfather of the German World Cup squad, but man, oh man, with him being able to win in Whistler last week and Kunizé last year, all that experience is very impressive.
All of 28 years old.
Yeah.
He's the granddaddy, because the others are still, you know, barely out of diapers and still wet behind the ears. 600s behind. He was a 10th in front of Eric Nielsen at the start, but most of that was first round advantage. Still 600s behind. Now, this is where he found the pace in the first heat.
Ooh, big speed.
128.3, quicker than Nielsen. He will take the lead of the race. So goodbye to Faceman and hello to the leader's box for Frank Rommel, 57.09. Again, not as quick a run as Eric Nielsen, but enough to put him in the lead on total time. And as ever, it is the total time for both runs that adds up to make you the winner or not.
The new Adidas prototype shoes, we're all pretty excited to get those in our hands. A lot more flexibility in them, a little bit more grip.
This is the way that all athletic shoes are going, isn't it? Getting smaller, lighter, and basically your foot with some spikes in the bottom is what you want, isn't it? He's a big fan favourite here. And they may well be seeing him in the team's race tomorrow afternoon as well. Well, next up, Just 500s quicker than Frank Rommel in the first heat. In 6th position, Thomas Ducours, who lies second in our World Cup rankings.
5 flat, that matches his first run time. Handles corner 0, great.
One of the things that you need to be in the top 6 in this sport, Melissa, is the complete package. You've got to start strongly, but you've got to be able to control that pace. You've got to go from the beast when you load to the Zen master when you're driving these tracks, because you just can't rush it.
Yes, and equipment is a huge factor as well. And of course, everybody is testing things along the way, just so that you can see where you'll end up when you're in Sochi in 2014.
1700ths over Rommel at the start is now over 0.3 of a second, but this is where Frank really turned on the afterburners. Still 0.3 of a second. 126.7. This will come down to 1500ths at the line, but he is the race leader. 56.98. Again, shows just how quick Rommel was at the bottom. Nevertheless, it's about your speed over both runs all the way through, and it is Thomas Ducours who leads the race.
Everybody has different stopping techniques. We do not have brakes with these skeleton sleds, so obviously you're dragging your sled up against the wall or dragging your feet.
It's so hard with these remaining athletes unless there's an absolute disaster to spot where things are going wrong, where speed is ebbing away. Yeah, little margin, but little margins make big differences. Frank Rommel offers his congratulations to our new race leader. Next up, one of our 2 young Germans. Last year, Alexander Krökel was one of 2 rookies in the German squad. This year, there's only 1 who comes up next. So the rookie is the top German here. Well, Alex Krökel, just 22, comes from Oberhof, so this is not his home track. In fact, all 3 German sliders, their home track is the Oberhof track, so near Erfurt in eastern Germany, so none of them particularly home favourites here. 5.09 getaway, good start from him.
200 slower than his first start. Puts him 1600s back right now, and everybody is in a very tight cluster, so have to be absolutely perfect.
1300s covering 3rd to 7th where Thomas Ducours started, and Ducours can outstart most of the guys in front of him by 1300, so you know it almost makes it a dead heat.
Ooh, you could hear that little tap. He just scuffed the wall to see what that does at this next split here in this fast lower labyrinth.
2300s behind now, and he's not going to find the pace. He's got good speed at the bottom, quicker than Ducours by a kilometre an hour, but it'll bring it down. Not enough though, 57.12. So Alexander Krökel slips into 2nd place, and Thomas Ducours is in the top half dozen. The question is now, how many of this little cluster of 5 athletes can he overhaul? Well, there is Alex Krökel. Talk about long and lean.
That was very dangerous. As he loaded on his sled, he overshot the saddle. You could easily pop your sled out of that groove. And you can see he's leaning off of the wall here. Lots of work that he had to do to keep a clean line. Little bump here on the entrance of 9, and it'll push him away. You see a big direction change when he's supposed to be getting up on that corner.
Well, brushes with the wall do all sorts of things. They steer the sled in directions you don't want. They take speed out of it in a way that you don't want. That's why they're to be avoided. Next up, the youngest of the German athletes, our World Cup rookie. This is only his 4th ever World Cup race. Christopher Grother, again from Oberhof, and 2nd in last year's Junior World Championships. Started his sports career as a ski jumper, age 6. Converted to skeleton when he was 16. 5.08, decent start as well. That'll be in the top 10 of getaways.
He was steering really hard in corner 0 to keep it from hitting that right-hand wall going into corner 1.
Now he was in the red by 400s to Thomas Ducours, only 200s as he crests the brow there. Could move into the lead by the next clock. He does. 93.2 kilometers an hour, 58 miles an hour going into the Kreisel. That's very good speed. And again, 60.8 miles an hour, just creeping away from Ducours.
Looks very smooth and comfortable on this track here in Winterberg.
This is his shot for a medal. 128.2 is very good speed, and that might be what decides it. He takes the lead here, but he was only 400s off the bronze in Heat 1. Jens Woudencoast looks very happy. 56.74, quicker than his first run, and there's not too many guys that have done that. 56.74 would have seen him third in Heat 1, and he may be on the World Cup podium.
Can see he's had the highest speed, he's relaxed, he has this classic little flip out of the finish corner in 14, but the timing eye's right there, so it doesn't matter at all. Keep your form, hang on tight.
Well, now you saw the smile, he knew it was a good one, didn't he? That was a keeper. Next up, third in the first heat. Third last to go in the second heat. Kristen Bromley of Great Britain, former world champion, double World Cup champion. His partner Shelley Rudman won this morning. Can Kristen make it 2 medals for the family here today? That will go some way to the disappointment of missing daughter Ella's first nativity, which is happening today back home in the UK. Good run through the first corner, 5:15 getaway, but all the control in the world, Melissa, and that's vital.
Kristen has an interesting sliding style where we're going to see a lot of movement with his feet, but we're not going to see a whole lot with his upper body. So obviously that's how his sled is set up. Make sure he has those points on the sled for control and tracking. Richard's made his way to Winterberg. This is his brother, and they work very hard on the Richard Bromley sled program. Obviously was working very good for them this morning with Shelley blowing away the field.
Now then, 97.7, a cracking speed, but is it enough to be able to overhaul Christopher Grotehair? Little wild, 1800s, the gap has grown, the medal is slipping away, 128.1 at the bottom, not enough. He goes down into second place, 57.01. Christopher Grotehair is on the World Cup podium for the first time in his career. Kristen Bromley in second place. I think that may just have seen the medal slip away. He was a few hundreds behind at the start, and then the first few corners cost him most of the added time. There he is, coming back down the in-run. There are the Russian girls, banging the drum for Alexander Tretyakov. Well, now, bearing disasters, it's out of the question that current leader Christopher Grotehair can get any higher than the bronze position. At the moment, he may not care.
Tretyakov owns this push record. Watch how far he pushes the sled. The groove runs out, and now he has to try and navigate his way through corner 0 with a slight hit before the corner.
485, quicker than his first heat, 486, but can he keep that speed alive? It's all going to look like massive advantages now over Christopher Grotehair, but the battle's not with Grotehair. He's trying to chase down Martins Ducours.
You're going to see his form is very different from Ducours.
93.2 kilometers an hour through the speed traps, 57.9 we've seen quicker, but 98.3, 61.1 miles an hour. Now he's really motoring. He's picking up more speed again.
You can see him moving around on his sled. He's really manipulating, but high speeds, 128.8 kilometers an hour.
Fantastic speed as he takes the lead, 56.38. That's 300 slower than Martins Ducours' new track record. That is saying, hey, don't forget about me. Just He's flashing the headlights in the leader's rearview mirror. I'm coming, I'm coming. Well, Mel, that's great for us, because that really throws down the gauntlet for Martins Ducourse. He can't cruise to this. He has to really go out and win this race.
Watch his technique. Long, efficient, powerful, fast steps. Unbelievable. Everybody is filming this guy so that they can go home in the summertime, and I want to be him.
You know, the leg speed doesn't look as quick as some of the other guys. Of course, he's got much longer levers, but it's the power that he generates. And that is what has given him the lead of this race. Now, Martins Ducourse outstarted Tretyakov last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, last time he raced in Whistler. Will he do it again? Do you know what? He might need to. Look how much quicker his leg turnover is, shorter strides. 485 for Tretyakov, 488, identical to his first heat for Ducourse. He still has the lead.
So impressive, considering he has an ACL tear. And, you know, he's not able to train the same way as he has in the past, but that's just how talented he is. Watch his form.
1900s. Yeah, he's pulling away.
So quiet on his sled, barely any movement, and he's so efficient with his steers.
One of the other things is that when he's relaxed, he absorbs not just the impacts, but the noise of the impacts as well. That's why he whistles past, you hardly hear him coming. Quarter of a second up, 61 miles an hour. Fraction slower than Tretyakov there, which might be a drama. Coming down by a whisker. No, 128.4 is enough. It is win number 20 of his World Cup career. Alexander Tretyakov, again the bridesmaid, as Martins Ducourse wins World Cup race number 20. It is his third win of the season. Superman reaches a major milestone, and bearing in mind it's an 8-race season, most races, that is a big run of success.
Don't see a lot of emotion out of him normally. He's humble, but 20 gold medals, yeah, it requires some celebration.
Absolutely right. He is absolutely the benchmark in this men's skeleton world still. Occasionally, the others get to him. Occasionally, they overhaul him. But consistently, he comes back and produces runs like this. Well, Melissa Hollingsworth, you said everybody watches Tretyakov at the start. Everybody watches Ducourse from the moment he arrives to the moment he leaves.
He is the one that you want to strive to be like.
Again, in his sliding style, reminds me of nobody so much as Gregor Staley, who just seemed to lie there in the perfect form and win races. Ducourse has taken that as a motif and has created a lifestyle out of it. And of course, like the very best, he makes it look childishly simple. Martins Ducourse, our race winner by 1600ths of a second over Alexander Tretyakov. Christopher Groothair, his World Cup medal, bronze in third, ahead of Kristen Bromley, who finishes in 4th spot. We'll be back with words from our winners. Stay with us.
wenigen Momenten gibt es die Sieger- und Platzierten-Interviews dort im Zielbereich. Kurzer Hinweis noch einmal, 16:45 Uhr, sozusagen die 5:05 Uhr, die Siegerehrung der Skeleton-Disziplin bei den Damen und bei den Herren nacheinander in Kreisel. Und ich hoffe, dass wir Sie da, liebe Zuschauer, dann auch noch sehen werden.
Welcome back. The Latvian Barmy Army in full voice down at the bottom here at Winterberg in Germany to celebrate Martin Stucors claiming his 3rd race win of the season, the 20th of his World Cup racing career, and that doesn't include World Championships and Olympic medals, of course. Alexander Chechikov lies 2nd. Thomas Stucors down to 3rd position in the World Cup rankings with a 5th spot finish here, just behind the podium finishers. But again, Melissa Hollingsworth, Martin Stucors putting in a masterclass in Winterberg.
So impressive. I would never expect anything less, but it's exciting to see that he actually has some people racing with him this year.
Well, he said this track always used to perplex him, much the same as you've been saying. He said, I used to have some good runs, some really awful runs. He said, but I got my first ever podium medal here. He said, so since then, it's become one of my favorite tracks. It's a track you never forget. Well, let's get down to our top 3 with John Morgan.
Here we are in Winterberg for the flower ceremony. Wilfred Idema, the vice president of the FIBT, hands out the flowers, which is a normal tradition in FIBT, but what makes Winterberg so neat is Winterberg has this wonderful tradition of passing out the big Veltins beers, and this is what all the athletes look forward to. So, especially, Christopher, your first medal ever. Did you think you could win a medal here today?
No, I thought I came on the top 6, but now it's great.
Well, enjoy your Veltins beer. Congratulations on your first podium. The Russian Rocket. 2nd at Winterberg. It's a good start again.
Да, я доволен результатом. 2-е место очень хорошо. Главное, была красивая борьба, очень красивая гонка. Поэтому спасибо всем, кто болел за меня, помогал.
Well, he's very happy as usual and thankful to all his supporters. But hey, Martin's first place, your 20th World Cup victory. Did you know that?
Nah, I didn't count. Thanks to let me know. Of course, I'm really happy, and it was a pretty tough race, and I'm happy that I'm a bit closer in the start to Alex, and thanks a lot for the team, for the help. Good job this week, and thanks a lot for the fans.
Congratulations. Enjoy the moment here.
Jim came here now, his 20th victory in World Cup racing comes here at Winterberg as well. Martin Stucors leads the World Cup rankings with win number 3 of the season. Well, thank you for joining us here in Winterberg. Don't forget, we have lots more action coming up this weekend. Until then, on behalf of John Morgan, Melissa Hollingsworth and the rest of the FIBT TV crew here, I'm Martin Haven saying goodbye.